Hi everyone, this is Cristina.
And Carmen.
And this is another episode of Espooky Tales, the podcast for all things spooky, sometimes true crime. Today, both. And there's no MJ. She had to visit some family. And just so we don't get more behind, we have to record today.
Again, another contractual obligation.
Yes, we both have contractual obligations, actually.
Yeah.
I did want to say, though, before we read the listener's story or get into what today's topic is, thank you, everyone, for all the messages. I got so many messages. Again, I guess if anyone doesn't follow us on social media, they probably don't know, but my dog passed away and I was too distraught to record. For a while, I felt so silly being so sad, but I'm like, no, he was my little friend, my little...
Yeah, he was a member of the family.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, so many listeners, so many spookies sent me messages. Some listeners had just gone through the same exact thing like a day before me or, years ago. And I mean, it doesn't matter when or what, like it still hurts. So thank you so much, everyone who sent me messages. And yeah, it meant a lot to me. So yeah, that's why we didn't record. And I'm much better now. I'm used to not having my little Kobe in the house. It took a while though.
Yeah.
Because he followed me everywhere, that dog. He was like what's the thing in Spanish? Like un pegosto de chicle or tu chicle. Like you tell someone like that's your gum because they don't leave you alone. And that was Kobe. Like he literally followed me everywhere from the moment we picked him up from the shelter. Like he climbed into my little lap or he
was like, this is my person.
Yeah. And he just like, I was the first person he went to and he just followed me everywhere. So yeah, I picked up his ashes. They gave us this cute little poem and then a little piece of his fur.
Poem?
Yeah, it's like the Rainbow Bridge poem, basically like, all dogs go to like this little piece of heaven and they play together up there. And I'm saying it all wrong, but
right.
One day the dog pauses from its playtime and it turns over to look at the like Rainbow Bridge and you're like walking across it to meet your little dog there. Yeah.
I've heard of it.
Yes. And I cried more when I got all that stuff, but
yeah. I feel
but
like
I'm good.
right now.
I'm good now. Yeah. And then one more update before we get to the listener's story. Last episode was on the nursery rhymes and mostly about Sana Sana Colita de Rana. And I did get a message from a listener that I wanted to share.
Ooh.
So Josue sent us an email. He said, Hola, okay, so I don't know anything for fact, but I have a theory with regards to Sana Sana Colita de Rana. A few years ago, I took a trip to Galicia to see where my colonizer side came from. Oh my God. Okay. While touring the town of Vigo, I came across a petroglyph with the placard on it. Near it, the placard stated, and I'm paraphrasing here, that area is one of the oldest sites of the Gaelic Celtic people. So my theory is that Sana Sana came from the Gaelic Celtic cultures, which existed in Spain and then made its way up to Ireland.
Oh, I didn't know that. Wow.
Yeah, which now kind of makes sense with the whole someone said how it came from Ireland.
That's right.
Yeah. If these groups of people were in both places.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Well, we believe you 100%.
Oh, Josue. Yeah. Theory confirmed, Josue. Then he went on to say, I'm from Los Altos de Jalisco, which was once part of El Reino de Nueva Galicia, which you and I are familiar with, Carmen, because we talked about.
We did on Historias Unknown. Go listen over there.
Yes, that was a very fun episode. So I highly recommend it if you don't, just for that episode alone. It was about a colonizer who basically set up Nueva Galicia. So
yeah.
But yeah, honestly, this kind of supports both that it could have been from Ireland and Spain. So yeah, I like it. Thank you so much for sending that in.
I'm subscribing to this theory.
Yeah. And then he signed off. Anyhow, I could be entirely wrong, pero quién sabe. Thanks, Josue.
¿Quién sabe anything?
I know. Yo no sé nada. So yeah, that was a fun story or fun email to read. And yeah, okay, listener story. I guess I should say today's topic. A listener sent a message on Instagram asking if we could cover the murder of Homero Gómez Gonzalez and him and his story and the butterflies itself. I had that topic saved for Historias Unknown because I was like, this is historic. But then the documentary came out on Netflix, and since the listener asked, I was like, yeah, sure, Carmen will write up these notes because she has contractual obligations.
Yeah.
She's the one with Netflix. So.
And also a Netflix subscription that I tried to get Cristina on, but it didn't work out.
Ever since they did their whole
freaking Netflix.
no sharing account.
Yeah, lame.
So yeah, that's what today's topic is. So yeah, it is a true crime episode. Some people don't like that. So, feel free to skip this one, though it is a very important case. So
yeah.
Before we get to that, of course, I do have the listener story, and I did skip a bunch of other stories because this one, when I got the email, the subject line said "feel good ghost stories," and I was so sad.
Of course, I mean,
over my dog.
Who doesn't like a feel good?
Yeah. So I was like, I have to read these. So yeah, and if you have a story that you want us to read on the podcast, you can email espookytales@gmail.com. You can submit it on our Discord. We actually got a couple submissions on Discord. I was very excited. So, be reading those in the future. You can send it through Instagram. I have another really good one that was sent to me on Instagram, but I want MJ to be here to react to it. So yeah, I mean, a bunch of stories coming in and I love it. So send them in. There's the number, the Spooky Hotline in the show notes. There's a lot of options to get us stories. Okay, so here goes the story that we got from Chris. And thank you, Chris, for sending it in. He starts out, thought I'd share my stories with you and feel free to put them on the podcast. They're actually feel good stories, not scary ones. Thank you for doing your podcast. I look forward to my drive to work on Fridays. I'm really sorry for such a long email, but once I started talking about it all, I just kept going. I don't like physically talking about it because my voice breaks. Get it?
Oh my God.
I'm the biggest
We're just
crybaby.
a pair of chillonas, yes.
I know. That's why I have a sweater that says chillona, because I am.
Same.
Yeah. So yes, we understand that. I get teary-eyed, but now I have to hide here at work because I don't want people asking me why my eyes are watery. All right, so here we go. The first story. My dog passed away 2 years ago from cancer.
Not a dog story.
Rest in peace. I know, I'm gonna cry now. Oh God. When we moved into our new house, I built her a new dog house because my little girl deserves one too.
Oh.
Oh my God. I made it into a farmhouse style with vinyl flooring and T&G wood panels. This sounds hella fancy.
Yeah.
You could rent that out. I made it 6 feet long so she could have space for her warm bed and also could lay out on the vinyl flooring if she got too warm. I wanted to put a small AC unit in there, but my wife said I was doing too much because our condo didn't have an AC, but I wanted it for the dog. On the night that we had to put her down, it took me forever to go to sleep because I kept talking to her about how I miss her and how I will always appreciate how she would listen, cuddle up with me when I would go out to her in the middle of the night to talk. I was so nervous and happy about becoming a father, but I was scared that I wouldn't do a good job. She would comfort me, tearing up a little bit thinking about this. I'm gonna cry. I know it. When I finally got to sleep, I woke up randomly because I heard the sound of her paws moving on the vinyl flooring, trying to get comfortable and cool, like I had heard her very often. But when I closed my eyes, I remembered that she had passed away a few hours prior to that. I sat up and still heard it. I wanted to go to her house and check, but I felt like she came to visit to comfort me, to let me know she was still there with me. I told my wife about that in the morning, and she looked so surprised because she told me she heard it too, but at a different time of the night.
Oh, wow.
That's so precious. Oh my God.
I'm gonna cry.
I know. Okay, let's take a moment to
Get
breathe.
together. My eyes are watery.
I know.
Okay.
That's beautiful. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Second story. Wow. Okay. A lot of death here. I'm so sorry for all of your losses.
Oh my God.
Okay. Second story. My father passed away in August 2023. He lost his fight with alcoholism. He had been sober for 5 years.
Oh. This is very hard to hear for me right now.
I know. Okay. All right. He had been sober for 5 years or so after going to a year-long rehab. And against our wishes and recommendations, he felt he was strong enough to handle a beer every now and then. That happens. Yeah. But that quickly changed. When I was 19, we gave him the choice to stop drinking or leave the house. Within a few seconds, he said, "Well, I'm not going to stop drinking," and walked out on all 4 of us.
Oh my God.
It was at that moment I promised myself that when I became a father, I will never make my child feel like I love a bottle more than them. Fast forward to 2020, when my son was a toddler, my dad was back to his old ways. One night I had called him because I needed to tell him how I felt that as a father, how could you possibly choose something over your child? And while screaming into the phone, louder than I had ever yelled at any Marine Corps recruits, okay, this is serious because Marine what are they called? Drill instructors. They're not drill sergeants like in the army.
You don't want a Marine to come yell at you.
Please don't yell at me for saying the wrong thing. Yes.
You know how they are now.
They've been yelling. Yeah, no, we know. So I understand this now. So how could he stop for those strangers in rehab, but not for his own damn family? That's hard. That's hard, I'm sure. He quickly came to their defense and said they were there for him, not us. Ugh. I was so mad, I hung up the phone and went inside to be alone with my guitar. Against my wishes, my wife calls my best friend, who knows all about this, to take me out for some food and to talk. So glad she did, because I needed it. I love her for being there for me and my best friend for everything they've done. From that night on, I gave up on being mad at him because I poured my heart and soul out to him with everything I had held in for years, trying to avoid hurting his feelings. I realized he was going to die soon, and I wanted my last years with him to not be on bad terms. The night he passed, we stayed at his house in Santa Barbara, California. While everyone was downstairs, I went to his bedside and kneeled down, holding his pillow, trying to talk to him and tell him I was sorry for all those years I was so mad at him. I was so sorry for telling him that after he left us, he was not a father to me when he tried to tell me what to do one time. I was sorry for not texting or calling more. I was sorry for everything and to please give me a sign that he could hear me. I got nothing in the moment. That night, I fell asleep tearing up, listening to all his voicemails because I felt guilty. I had saved them because I knew one day this time would come, and I wanted to still hear his voice. I was woken up that night by the feeling of someone sitting on the edge of the bed. I sat up and turned and looked to my left and still saw my wife laying on her side sleeping. I looked forward and didn't see anything, but I felt pressure around my arms, as if I was getting a strong, loving hug that lasted a few seconds. I couldn't see my dad, but I felt his presence. I woke up that morning and I felt like I had a huge weight lifted off my shoulders, and that my dad came to me to let me know everything was okay. Sorry, we're like, Carmen's crying. That's why I'm laughing. Now I say he's up there walking my dog for me. I need a moment. Oh my God. I did not expect to cry this much.
No.
Okay. Now I say he's up there walking my dog for me since he tried to say she liked him more. Okay, pause. My dad, whenever he visited, would always try to walk my dog, but my dog was so picky, he would only let me walk him.
Yeah.
And my dad would pick him up to try and take Kobe to walk.
He would try to force his love on him.
Oh my God. Yeah. Wow. Was it who made us cry? Like Kevin made us cry last.
Oh my God, that's
last
right.
time.
We did cry.
And now
Kevin. And now Chris
is making us cry again. Oh my God. So let me scroll down.
Oh, I just wanted to say it's so hard for people, children and loved ones of people who suffer from addiction and substance use issues. Like, it's so hard for them to feel like, oh, they love this more than me. But, you know, people with addictions and substance use issues, dependencies and all of that, they don't want to choose the drugs over their loved ones, and they feel a lot of shame around that. But and then likewise, their loved ones feel like, you know, all of this anger. And I'm just glad that, you know, Chris was able to get that final hug from his dad to know, like, oh, I forgive you. Oh, I'm gonna cry.
You're good. Yeah, no, I agree completely. And that he let go of the anger too.
Yeah,
because that's so difficult.
Yeah.
And I mean, Carmen used to work in like the addiction space.
Yeah.
So oh man. Okay, third story. Not as long of a story, sorry for these. I've wanted to send these separately for a while, but was holding off because I didn't want to tear up talking about them. My dad was a huge Carlos Santana fan, and he made me one of those so that we would bond over the music. I even chose the middle name Santana for my son.
Oh,
I love that.
That's cool. Yeah.
What a good middle name. Like, I can't get over this. Okay, so I went to Vegas with my wife to see Carlos at the House of Blues this past January and wore my dad's belt and handed off a picture of my parents at age 17 in Tijuana and a picture of my son. I just missed giving it to Carlos on stage, but I gave it to one of his road crew members. He read it, hugged me, and told me to wait here after the concert. He was going to give me one of Carlos's guitar picks that he used that night. I have it, and it's one of my favorite possessions. I left my Instagram phone number and email hoping he'd call, and I'm still hoping. We're hoping with
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, let's tag Carlos Santana. Let's make this a clip and tag Carlos Santana. In the days leading up to the concert, I was relearning Oye Como Va on my guitar, and while standing in the same spot I always stand in when I play, and never smell my dad's incenses that I got from his room. I smelled them very strongly when I was playing loudly and getting to the solo. I started to cry a bit because I felt like my dad was there telling me to play louder, mijo. But I knew he was happy to hear me. I had made up a little instrumental song for him that I'm still working on because on his deathbed, I had Samba Pa Ti, Flor de Luna, and Europa. I don't know these titles. I'm like,
I will say I only know the one song you just said, Oye Como Va.
Me too.
And then the other one, about a girl or something, like Maria. I don't remember.
Yeah, I know the name you're talking about. I also don't remember the name. Okay, so, and Europa playing for him on my phone. It came to me one day because I was trying to make something up for him, but I was drawing a blank and was getting frustrated. I went and grabbed my Carlos Santana guitar pick, and within a few seconds, the main riff of the song just came out of me. Sorry. I started jamming on it for a while and was tearing up, but this time it was happy tears because I know my dad would have loved to have me on FaceTime playing that for his family in Mexico.
Aww.
Like he loved to do because he was so proud of me. I would give anything to play my guitar for my dad just one more time. And he did send some pictures if we want to look at them.
Oh, yeah.
I emailed it to you.
Oh, okay. Let
yeah.
me see.
So the picture of his parents together. Oh, they're so cute. Let me go.
And these are the pictures
oh my
he gave.
God, the dog.
Oh.
Wow. Seriously, thank you so much for all these stories and for making us cry. And seriously, it's amazing to have been able to, get one more hug. Like what a gift. Wow. I'm almost gonna cry again.
I know, me too.
Wow.
Beautiful stories. Thank you for sharing.
Yes. Okay. Let's take a little ad break here and get ourselves together.
And we're back.
All right. So I think we're ready for your notes here.
Yeah. So we are talking about Homero Gómez Gonzalez today. He is also known as the guardian of the monarchs. And that is also the name of the documentary on Netflix that I watched, and most of these notes are from. But I did also use a few articles, and all of that will be in the description, whatever you call it. What is it?
Show notes, description.
Show notes. I knew there was a name.
Yeah, well, YouTube is description and show notes is podcast apps.
Okay, well, it'll be there. I will say I was watching the documentary and I didn't quite catch all of Homero's family's names. So I will be saying Homero's son, Homero's wife, Homero's brother, all of that, because I was really bad at catching all the names. And then all the articles that I read, and I tried looking up the relative's name after, and I didn't find anything. And I was like, I'm not going to rewatch it just to see their names. So anyway, yeah. So the documentary is Guardian of the Monarchs. But yeah, before we talk about Homero, let's talk about the Monarch Butterfly. Honestly, they're like the most beautiful butterflies.
Gorgeous butterflies.
I've been wanting a tattoo of them for a while because they represent so much. And we're going to talk a little bit about what they represent.
Okay, I was going to say, what do they represent?
To me, it brings images of Mariah Carey.
Oh, God.
She has that, CD or album with the butterfly, and also the immigration movement. So yeah, I mean, so much. So every year since the last Ice Age, can you believe it?
The Ice Age?
Yeah.
Wow.
The Monarch butterflies embark on a 2,000 to 3,000 mile journey from their summer breeding grounds in Canada to the forests of central Mexico, transcending man-made borders. And because of this journey, they have become a symbol for immigrant rights. And they also have huge significance in many cultures. The arrival of the monarch to Mexico coincides with Dia de los Muertos, and the Otomi and Mazawa people believe that the butterflies carried the souls of their deceased loved ones, visiting them from the afterlife. Isn't that beautiful?
That is the most beautiful thing I've ever heard. Oh my God. This episode is just full of beautiful things.
So much death, but like beautiful things about death.
Yeah. Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah. It's very, I don't know, like meant for today. Because I went to a not that fucking word again. Burial.
You went to
today.
a burial.
And then you had, Kobe just pass away. I don't know. It just
And
feels...
then our listener story was actually
Yes.
perfect for this
Like-
episode. This is very, and MJ would know the word, like synchronized.
maybe something like that.
Synchronicity. I don't know. Actually, I don't even know if I'm using that right. I don't know.
But yeah, it's very that.
Yeah.
A Purepecha legend teaches that the butterflies carry the spirits of warriors and that the flapping of their wings relays messages from the afterlife. And the monarchs are sacred to indigenous groups in the United States too. For the Hopi people, monarch butterflies are painted on Hopi Kachina dolls, and hopefully I'm pronouncing those right, which are given as gifts in hope of future abundance and health. And the Hopi also have a butterfly dance, which is danced for rain, good health, and long life. And the Blackfoot people associate butterflies with sleep and dreaming and would decorate cradles with butterflies to help babies sleep, or embroider a butterfly on a small piece of buckskin and tie it in the baby's hair to help them sleep.
Oh my God, that's so cute.
Yeah. And then there is also, let me see, one of the articles, I don't know why I didn't write it down here, but there's an image of a Sitting Bull, and he had a monarch butterfly on his hat.
Wow, that's just like such a powerful image. Wow.
And that's on the saveourmonarchs.org link for anyone who wants to click on that. Okay, so these beautiful butterflies hold widespread significance across many cultures, and they held great significance to one man, Homero Gómez Gonzalez, also. Homero was an environmental activist, agricultural engineer, and politician who managed the Rosario Monarch Butterfly Preserve, which is a part of the Monarch Butterfly Biosphere Reserve located in western Michoacan. Homero grew up in this area and was born into a logging family. Following his family's tradition, Homero became a logger, as did most of the people from Rosario. Logging maintained the local economy. Environmentalists soon began to oppose logging in Rosario since deforestation was negatively impacting the primary habitat of the butterflies. And at the time, the townspeople from Rosario, including Homero, felt threatened by the environmentalists. And they felt that their livelihoods were being threatened, which, I mean, they were.
Yeah.
And this is a problem with a lot of environmental activism, that it ignores, the
economies that have been
long-standing and or forced upon people.
We, a long time ago, did an episode on Historias Unknown about gum, but gum is the same situation where it becomes this like huge booming economy. It gets sold everywhere else, and then the people mining it or gathering this resource, that's the job they depend on. They deplete the land because colonization has made it so that this is the only available industry in these regions. And then these industries are problematic, but then at the same time, these people were forced to depend on it. It's this like terrible thing that you can blame on colonization.
Yeah, and a lot of times too, when the environmental activism does not come from the community that relies on these sources, then there's like no plan for them, no alternative plan for them to make money and all of that too. So yeah, but at the same time, Homero grew up admiring the monarch butterflies, as he had been told by his grandparents that the butterflies carried the souls of their ancestors. Eventually, Homero went on to study agricultural engineering at the Chapingo Autonomous University. I wonder if that's right or if that was not correct, but whatever. It is what it is. It's in my notes. He changed his mind about logging and convinced, like through his education and stuff, and convinced other villagers to do the same in order to protect the butterflies. Homero realized that preserving the monarchs could bring in tourism to Rosario, replacing the revenue that would be lost from logging. So see?
Sustaining.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Okay. Sustaining the community's dependency on okay, amazing.
Yeah. And Homero became the commissioner of Rosario, and I think if I got the timelines right, this is when he and the community codified the preservation of the monarchs by limiting logging and later outlawing entirely. And I think it was when he was the commissioner, which is like another word for mayor, but because it's such a small town, they call it commissioner. But anyway, I think it was when he was the commissioner that it was outlawed entirely, and people were not happy with him.
I bet.
Yeah. So Homero also started working alongside the World Wildlife Fund on conservation initiatives and to promote the sanctuary. And Homero's son helped him film videos about the butterflies and to promote the sanctuary and with social media in general. And there's there's a popular video that's actually filmed either the day before the day that Homero went missing, that I'm sure a lot of people have seen by now, where it's him standing amongst the butterflies, and there's so many butterflies like
So
around
many.
him. Homero's son described Homero as loving and a joker. Some of his first memories were of them going to the forest together to see the butterflies.
Oh.
Yeah. So we talked about how logging affected the monarch butterfly population, like the deforestation, they lost their habitat, and had nowhere to go, nowhere to, I don't know what they call it, nest. It's not nesting.
Live, I don't know.
Live, yeah.
Habitate. No, that's not a word.
And like I had mentioned, not everyone in Michoacan cared about or were happy with these changes. And they cared about profit. That's what they saw when they saw the trees, and money, even when logging was outlawed. And this is where cartels come in. So as we know,
yeah.
Michoacan is infamous for its cartels. There are at least 14 criminal groups active and on record around Rosario, and these include Los Correa, Los Viagras.
Really? Oh my God.
Yeah. Cartel Jalisco Nueva Generación, Cartel de Sinaloa, Fuerzas Especiales Mecho, Nueva Familia Michoacana, Carteles Unidos, and Pájaros de la Sierra, among others. But these are the ones they mention in the documentary. So most of us know that cartels make their money from drugs, but in this region, and I mean other areas of Mexico too, their business also expanded to illegal timber export, extortion, providing protection for U.S. timber companies operating in the area, and also growing avocados. They would export the timber that they obtained from illegal logging, and then they would burn that area they cleared, they deforested basically, in order to grow avocados, rendering it useless. Like then no more trees could be planted there either.
Yeah, obliterating the home of the monarchs.
Yes, yeah. And then the cartels would also steal water from the communities for avocado cultivation. So at night, these cartels would illegally go into the forest and the sanctuary, and Homero, along with other men from El Rosario, including his family, like his brothers, they defended the sanctuary against the cartel. Homero used to encourage the people to protect the trees by telling them they can't kill us all. They would arm themselves with rifles, bats, machetes, whatever they could, and throw hands and get into gunfights with the cartel.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And unfortunately, you make a lot of enemies when you go against the cartel. And I feel like we've talked, I don't know, a lot of kind of like you've had a lot of episodes about.
They come up in these true crime cases because they don't just sell drugs. Like you were just saying, extortion. And part of the extortion is taking not just women, but a lot of the victims end up being women, holding them for ransom, or just, because of how they are, these women may end up with like a cartel member. People join the cartel, like we saw in the case of Ruby and her mom, that the boyfriend ends up joining the cartel because she's not giving up on trying to get him arrested, and they end up killing her. Like it's just a huge violent problem, and it transcends into like all these other things that we've covered on the podcast. Like it's just crazy that they're like, they just come up
in everything.
So often. Yeah.
As a leader of the community, Homero became a target. After catching the illegal loggers, Homero pressed charges against them and raised awareness through the media and continued to campaign against illegal logging. Pretty soon, the cartels started to get mad at Homero for calling attention to their illicit activities, and he began getting death threats. Homero was even kidnapped when he first ran for office, but that didn't stop his fight against the cartels and their illegal logging.
Man.
Yeah. Homero even said that as long as he was alive, he wouldn't permit organized crime to take over the forest.
Wow.
Tensions were rising, and soon community members were abducted and found dead the next day.
Oh my God. All to try and get him to stop and to let them do what they want to do.
Yeah. At one point, the sanctuary even closed its doors to millions of tourists to demand help from the authorities in dealing with illegal logging. But per usual, the government was in cahoots with the cartel.
Of course.
In the Netflix documentary, they mentioned that 4 out of the last 5 mayors of Michoacan had connections with the cartels. And as a government official, Homero mingled with the mayor of Michoacan and other like more local government officials also. So it's possible that many of his peers were colluding with the same cartels that wanted Homero dead.
Wow.
In the afternoon of January 13th, 2020, Homero went to a meeting in the village of El Soldado. Then on his way back home, he picked up his son and dropped him off at the bus stop. Little did Homero's son know that this was the last time he would see his father alive. After dropping his son off at the bus stop, Homero went to the local horse races, which were part of the fair. And it was kind of like a tradition or customary for the local government officials to attend the horse races and the fair. And there he mingled with his political peers and took pictures with many of them, including Elizabeth Guzman, Jorge Arroyo, Octavio Ocampo, and Karina Alvarado. Homero's family started to get worried around 9 to 10 p.m. because they were worried when it was, they started to get worried around that time, 9 to 10 p.m. because he hadn't came home yet. And normally he would be home by then. But they were even more worried when it was 4 a.m. and he still hadn't come home. Homero's wife and son weren't able to reach him by phone, so his son called law enforcement to report him missing. And law enforcement told the family, I don't know what time law enforcement went out, if it was the next day or what. They told the family that they had no trace of Homero or his car. But the next day, Homero's sister went to the fairgrounds and saw his car there. So I don't know.
So, no, they knew. They knew.
Yeah, they knew something was wrong.
Or they were part of it, part of the plan. Like, there's no way.
So it seemed like right from the beginning that law enforcement was not too interested in finding Homero or in being diligent about their investigation or search for him. Homero's brother even went to the media to speak out against law enforcement for their handling of the case. But the community came together to do law enforcement's job and scout, the area. 300 of them came together to search the forest for Homero, but they didn't find him. Nothing was found. So the next day on January 14th, Homero's son called Homero's phone and someone answered saying that Homero forgot his phone at the bar. And I don't remember how much time passed after this, but I don't think it was too long, maybe some days, but I don't remember. I didn't write it down. But Homero's wife got a phone call for a ransom. They said they had Homero and they were demanding 100,000 pesos. And they sent her a picture of Homero kneeling on the ground, surrounded by men dressed in military gear, pointing their guns at him. So at this point, the family was in communication with law enforcement, and law enforcement advised her to not give them the money because it could be a hoax, because a lot of that had been going on too. Despite law enforcement advising her against it, she agreed to obtain the money and drop it off at the location.
She just wanted her husband back.
Yeah, I mean, this was out of desperation. So she dropped the money off at the location that they told her to. But when the cops tracked where the phone calls were coming from, it was from a prison in Tamaulipas. So it was just a scam. A couple of weeks later, the entire police forces of Ocampo and Angangueo, so like nearby, because these are all villages, small villages. Yeah.
Like pueblos.
So, nearby pueblos. The entire police force were brought in for questioning and were being investigated for Homero's disappearance because 53 of the officers, so the total force, was in charge of security at the horse race and the fair.
So someone would have had to see him.
So they were in charge of security where he was last seen. And there was also a pattern from even before Homero of police being involved with disappearances. But no arrests were made. All of the law enforcement officers that were questioned said that either they left early, like before he was last seen, or that they didn't see anything. But still very fishy.
Yeah, of course.
On January 29th, 2020, Homero's brother got a call from law enforcement letting him know to come to El Soldado where Homero was last seen because a body was found. The body was found in a well face down 6 meters deep. Homero's brother recognized the pants immediately, but confirmed his worst nightmare when the body was pulled out and he saw that it was Homero. Homero's brother called the family to inform them. In the documentary, Homero's wife says that she was glad he was found because others go missing and are never found. And she said que no están ni vivos ni muertos. And yeah, that just made me think of all the...
For that to just come back because of all the things we've covered on our history podcast.
Oh my God, yeah. I keep forgetting we're not...
This is not Historias Unknown. This is
yeah, because I was insane. We covered so many topics like this.
Yeah. Disappearances is something that these governments, regimes use to control the people and suppress and, you know.
I'm trying to remember. I think it was when we talked about Azucena Villaflor, when they questioned it was in Argentina, right?
Yes, this was Argentina.
Who was the dictator?
Ooh, I don't remember his name right now. But it was a military junta with like, you know, one person in charge.
So I don't remember if they asked like a top military person or the dictator about the bodies. But I think this was when he said que no están ni vivos ni muertos. They're just gone.
Yeah. And like, I mean, every dictatorship, because even Pinochet in Chile would say the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Just very, very, I don't know.
And you know what? This is something we saw. It happened during the Civil War in El Salvador, but it's happening right now.
Oh, yeah.
And we've talked about this podcast, but Humo, and it has a longer name. I'll put it in the show notes, but the way the podcast starts, it's like, this is a true crime podcast, but it's so much more than that. Daniela Alvarenga is the host, and it is talking about this case that was huge in true crime media news, like Reddit. It was on there about all these bodies that were found in this former cop's home. But like, yeah, some of it was him, but I don't think people understand the like seriousness and the issue of disappearances done by both the government and the gangs, who sometimes are working together.
Who are in cahoots, yeah.
Yes, and people praise Bukele right now because it's so safe, but like, and how many times have we said this? Safe for who? Certainly not the disappeared, who are sometimes never found.
Yeah, and it's such a horrible thing to do to someone, and because they're loved ones, like there's so much ritual and I don't know, ancestral like traditions in burying somebody, right? There's so much tied to that, so much emotion and so much like if like we need to bury this person like to honor their life and to say goodbye to them and to let them rest in peace, or however people, you know, have different ways of doing that. But with no body, they can't do that.
It's taken away from them.
Yeah.
Even that. The person is taken away from them, and then it's all taken from them. And it's infuriating to like, you know, hear about, because it's something that is just so common in Latin America.
And we didn't translate it, but for anyone that doesn't speak Spanish, ni vivos ni muertos, it means neither alive nor dead.
Just gone, just disappeared.
Yeah. So there were conflicting reports about the condition of Homero's body and the cause of death. Per law enforcement, the cause of death was drowning and no external injuries were found. It was theorized by law enforcement that Homero fell and hit his head, but the blow to his head was not the cause of death. The coroner, though, disagreed with law enforcement and noted that the investigation was poorly conducted. The coroner believed something fishy was going on because he believed that even with the cold weather conditions of the season, Homero's body should have been deteriorated and unrecognizable by that point, because it had been 3 weeks at that point.
Mm-hmm. So meaning he was kept somewhere else.
Right. That's what the coroner believes, because if he was truly there, also mind you, 300 people searched this area and found nothing. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But if he had truly been there the whole time in the elements for 3 weeks, his body would not have been recognizable. But law enforcement believes that Homero's body didn't decompose because of the cold weather. But again, the coroner's like, no, it doesn't work like that. Like, he still would have decomposed.
And who would know better?
The fucking coroner, man.
Yeah. Oh my God.
But law enforcement is adamant. Even in the fucking documentary, he's like, we did everything right. Me. I'm like, shut up.
No. And of course they're saying that. They're trying to cover their tracks because they probably have something to do with this.
I'm sure. Homero's family believes that the government officials Homero spent his last hours with know more than they're letting on, or were somehow involved in its disappearance and death.
Yeah, I was gonna say, when you were reading those names, like, certainly these people probably were either knew this was gonna happen or helped plan it.
Yeah
Because, you know, they're tied with these cartels and with this illegal logging, all of this.
And I'm like, Homero was like, these were his peers politically, but he was not, you know, on the same, I don't know, mindset and level as them. Like, he was from his community, very much like grassroots, like with his people, very much about his activism,
going against what they wanted.
Yeah. And then there were a few other things told to the family by law enforcement that didn't sit right with them. For example, when Homero's belongings were returned to his family, Homero's keys were not among the belongings. And when law enforcement returned the keys days later, they told the family that the keys weren't found with the rest of his belongings because they had been buried. But when they returned the keys to the family, there was no dirt and no evidence.
They were clean.
Yeah, they were clean.
Like somebody had these keys.
Yeah. Out of the government officials that were last seen with Homero, only Elizabeth allowed herself to be interviewed by the police because Karina and Octavio each filed a writ of protection, meaning that they had legal protection against being interrogated or investigated about Homero's disappearance. So I guess this is a thing politicians can file to not be interviewed about something or investigated about something. I don't know.
It sounds like that shouldn't be allowed.
Yeah. And that it could come historically from like...
That's true. That's true.
Which, what did
we talked about? God, we had 5 or 6 episodes on Chile.
That's right.
And some of the people that were at fault who committed all these human rights crimes, it was very hard to charge them because later because of these rules that were set in place and laws about how you couldn't just arrest people because dictatorships and dictators to get into power were arresting people for no reason. So that's why later it's very hard to then actually pin something on someone that they did or maybe had a part in. You can't even question them because of these other things that have happened in the past.
But it's very suspicious that they would do that.
Yeah,
like, I mean, of course, everyone has a right to not talk to law enforcement, but it's fishy because, I mean, one of them did, Elizabeth. And, you know, she came out not as a person of interest or anything after her interview. So, yeah. And even she thought it was weird that they would file that.
Yeah. It's not a good look.
No. Another weird thing is that Homero had supposedly forgotten his phone and tablet at the bar. But Elizabeth says that Homero had his phone and tablet the whole time. And his family says he never put his phone or tablet down anywhere. Like he's always holding them. And in the pictures from that night that they show in the documentary, he's holding them. All the pictures, he's holding them, both of them.
Yeah.
So it seems like somebody, you know.
Somebody took them. Somebody had these in their possession after he was kidnapped.
And then... So Karina ended up with Homero's phone and tablet. And actually, I couldn't see if it was both the phone and the tablet or just a tablet. But I think it was just a tablet.
And sorry, Karina is one of the ones that did not want to be questioned?
Yeah. She filed the writ of protection.
Okay. Yeah. What was she doing with those then?
Yeah. So she... And I want to say it was just a tablet, not both the phones. So she said that she found the tablet, and then she gave the tablet to her photographer. For what reason? Who knows? The other suspicious thing is that Karina's photographer was killed shortly after she gave him Homero's tablet. So, like, what is going on?
Oh my gosh. So he wouldn't say anything.
Exactly.
Jesus fucking Christ. This is insane.
Yeah. Homero's family remained outspoken about their suspicion that the government was involved in Homero's death. And a couple of years later, the attorney general announced that they were going to investigate Homero's brothers. Because why? Because this is what they do. This is what they do to force families to shut up.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
This is something else we have already seen in the true crime cases we've covered in Espooky Tales. And I'm sorry because there's so many of these cases, but it was a femicide. And the dad and brother...
Was it Miriam?
No, I think it was Esmeralda Castillo Rincon.
I don't remember.
I think it was her that they were protesting, and because of all that, they were arrested for like 8 months, and then the charges were dropped.
I think, yeah.
I think it was them, but again, like we have covered so many of these.
But it's so common. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
It's also something they touch on on that podcast.
Yes. Anyone who starts speaking against these human right violations
and against impunity,
yes, we'll get charged with something or we'll get disappeared. It's, yeah, again, and this is, I don't know, not to bring up El Salvador again, but and I won't because we've already talked about it. So much on Historias Unknown. But again, like, question this supposed sudden safety of a country. Someone who is president and runs again, and then this term is only supposed to last a certain amount of time, but suddenly they're president again. Question that shit.
Against the constitution of that country.
Seriously.
Yeah. Also, not to get too sidetracked, but I was listening to El Hilo's, and well, It was El Hilo.
After Bukele.
Yeah,
Después
but
de
it's
Bukele.
from, what is a actual podcast called? So they featured
Radio
it on...
Ambulante?
No, they featured it on El Hilo, but that podcast, it was the Bukele, it was a separate podcast from
Oh my
El
God, I
Hilo.
can't remember the name, but we we listened to it both. And it was a production of the same company, El Hilo.
Here it is. Bukele, El Señor de los... Central. It's called Central.
Central, yes.
Yeah. And the series of Bukele was El Señor de los Sueños. But yeah, they had an episode after or después de Bukele. And in that episode, they talk about how a lot of other politicians and president-elects are trying to copy Bukele to deal with their own violence in their own countries. And I think, as most of us have seen, Mexico, the first woman won the presidency, Claudia something. I forgot her last name already.
Sheinbaum. I don't know how to say it, but yeah.
But anyway, in that episode of Después de Bukele, they talk about how she wants to implement the same militaristic techniques.
And this is never good.
Yeah, and even in that episode, they're like, okay, but like it's quote unquote working in El Salvador because El Salvador is so small. It's such a different country than Mexico. Mexico's already tried that, right? Like war against the cartels.
And where has it gone?
Yeah. So they talk about how she wants to mano dura, like she wants to do that. And I'm like, this is your woman? Nah.
This is what you're celebrating. And again, it's like, what is it? Identity politics. Like we could get into it, but we're not going to because
I know
it's a whole
we're talking about Merona.
We are talking about Mexico, but I think because it's all related.
Yeah.
I mean, it's only going to if they do it, it's going to be more of the same of what we're seeing that happened to Homero, where at the end, these businesses and these cartels and these governments that are working together are the ones getting what they want because they're so powerful. And like, then you ask like, what is the solution? And I don't know, but I can say that mano dura policies harm the people. And it's the people that are more marginalized, like Homero, people from these pueblos, activists.
From these rural communities.
Indigenous people.
Yes, yeah.
And there's already such a suppression of indigenous populations in Mexico.
Yeah.
I mean, I could go on, but no, you go on.
Right. So it's just like all of this ties together. Like a true crime case is not a true crime case in itself. Like,
thank you. I was going to say it's more than a true crime case.
Yeah. So yeah, like we said, this is not the first time the Attorney General turned against the families of victims of deaths and disappearances. And they have a history of investigating families in order to pressure them to stop speaking out against them, the government. So the investigation of Homero's death remains open with no suspects or persons of interest. Law enforcement continues to believe that Homero's death was not violent and that all evidence points to drowning as the cause of death. But the family and many others believe someone intentionally hurt Homero because we cannot ignore that his activism posed a threat to the cartels and the local government colluding with the cartels. And we also can't forget that Mexico has one of the highest death rates for environmental activists and high rates of impunity as well. And the documentary closed very beautifully also with Homero's son saying he stepped in, in his father's footsteps to keep working with
fighting for the Monarch Butterflies.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And every year when the monarchs, or las novias del sol, as Homero called them, such a beautiful name, huh?
Oh,
tell me why I couldn't imagine our abuelito calling them that.
I know.
So every year when the monarchs come to the forest to visit, Homero's son believes that his father, Homero, travels along with the butterflies and he visits the reserve.
They're carrying his soul.
Yeah. And he says he spends time in the reserve. It's like spending time with his dad, and he like just talks to his dad. Ugh,
I'm gonna cry again. Oh my
Yeah.
God. He was a beautiful person, that cared about these beautiful flying creatures. Just such an unnecessary, violent loss.
Yeah, but I don't, it's like all of this in his death is tied to like the demand from logging also is tied to capitalism,
Yep.
And we know that capitalism is killing the earth. And the people that defend the earth the most, the people that live in these areas, the Amazon, these kind of reserves, they are usually indigenous people, and they face the most danger and harm from violent, people that are usually like capitalists trying to, exploit the resources.
Yeah. And usually behind that exploitation, the people demanding this
It's the United
labor and
States.
this, thank you. That's what I was going to say. It's the United States. Like 90% of the time. And then if you add in the other colonial powers, then there you have a complete picture of why this is happening.
Yeah.
And I hate it. And also the butterflies, their migration path is being disrupted by borders, by man-made borders. So, I mean, I think everyone knows our stance on the border, but that is another thing that puts them in danger.
I mean, there's a reason these butterflies have been and represent the immigration movement, because it's a right.
I mean, yeah. Oh, I did want to say though, there's such an amazing immigrant-owned company called Barrio Drive, and you can see shirts. They have the butterfly on a lot of their shirts, and I mean, they make everything. I am mutuals with them on TikTok, and their posts include their parents modeling the shirts, helping them run this business. And so I will put a link in the show notes to that for anyone that wants to check it out.
These do look cute.
Yeah, it's just such an amazing company, and if you want that butterfly on a shirt, I wouldn't go with anyone else but Barrio Drive. And yeah, I guess this brings us to the end of the episode. We're going to take a quick ad break and we're back. Okay, did you have any spooky recommendations?
I don't. No, I have a book, I guess, to recommend. It's not spooky, but it's very much tied into what we're talking about today, like indigeneity, right? So I am reading a book, I'm almost done with it, called Wandering Stars by Tommy Orange. And I didn't realize this when I checked it out from the library. Also, shout out libraries, support your local libraries. I love Libby. I love that they finally started using Libby. Now I can send it to my Kindle.
Libby's amazing.
And it forces me to read faster because, the deadline.
You have a date.
I only have 21 days to finish a book. So I didn't realize when I checked out that book that it's like sort of a sequel, but also kind of a prequel to Tommy's first book called There, which I read like 5 years ago. There had more characters, but it's like different point of views and stuff. But it's about Indigenous people in Oakland. And Wandering Stars kind of picks up where There left off. But it also talks about the ancestors. So, but it focuses kind of more on one family. Like it's a grandma who's like the grandma, but she's an aunt, great aunt to the kids. They're like teens, except one's younger. Anyway, 3 siblings, and they're Cheyenne. Then their grandma, their actual grandma, who for a long time had a problem with drinking. She comes back into their lives because the last book ends with the tragic kind of thing that they survive, but it brings them together. So anyway, it starts off kind of like a prequel because it talks about their ancestors, starting all the way from the Sand Creek Massacre. So it starts off with one of their ancestors who survived the Sand Creek Massacre as a boy. And that feels like such a long time ago, but it's like a great, great grandparent at most. And a lot of what we talk about in Espooky Tales, but also in Historias Unknown, like this, history of colonialism and surviving, right? And generational trauma. Surviving. Yes.
We're on the same page.
Yeah, we are. We're twinning. We're twinning today. So yeah, I mean, that's what it's about, like the ancestors, and then it moves on to the actual the siblings and the grandma and the great aunt and everything they're going through. But Tommy writes so beautifully, and each character has a very clearly different voice, and I'm like, how do you do this with so many different characters?
That's wild to me. Yeah, amazing.
There's one chapter that I love the most because it's so one of the ancestors gives birth and dies as she's giving birth, and it's written as if she's writing a letter to her daughters, who are the great aunt and the grandma of the boys.
Okay.
And she's like, in life you will experience this and this, but it's so beautiful. And I'm like, that
I'm gonna cry when I read this.
The book is so emotional.
Wow. Yeah. Okay, I need to renew my library card so I can go get these books. Thanks so much for sharing this book, because it's not a spooky recommendation, but I'm sure our listeners will love it.
Yeah, I think so.
And I think this episode alone highlights how all these things are so related, and how a true crime case is never really just a true crime case. Certainly not in Latin America.
Oh no. And even like, you know, here with the
missing and murdered Indigenous women.
right, that, you know, like those are not just women that were killed and went missing, right? Like it's tied to a history of violence against Indigenous women, which is tied to colonialism.
Yeah. So yeah. I don't have any spooky recommendations. I have been suffering from my hyperfixation of Degrassi. I'm almost done with season 10 right now.
How many seasons are there?
There's 14 that are Degrassi the Next Class, and then Degrassi the Next Generation, which is the one we're familiar with.
And then there's the next class.
Yeah, and that only had one season, I believe.
Because it sucked, probably.
Yeah, I think it was terrible from what I gather. I haven't watched it yet. So I'm like knee deep in this hyperfixation. I don't know when it's going to be over.
When you're done, probably.
Probably, although who knows? Sometimes I'm in the middle of a hyperfixation and then I'm
over.
like, wow, I don't care about this anymore. In the middle of it. And I will just drop it. I don't even care because I don't care about it anymore. Hence the hyperfixation. But right now it's Degrassi. And if I'm not working on episodes, if I'm not writing notes, then I'm either watching Degrassi or Degrassi songs are just stuck in my head. And it's the worst because some of these bands suck. So yeah, that's why I don't have any spooky recommendations. I haven't been watching anything but Degrassi. I needed to get it out of my brain, like how much I was kept thinking about it, and I have no one to talk to Degrassi about. So I just started writing some Degrassi notes, and I'm like, I'm not doing anything with them. I'm not.
What are you doing? What are you writing? Like recapping episodes or just your thoughts?
No, I'm writing the best and worst Degrassi music / bands right now.
Oh, wow. Well, I would love for you to share those with me.
Okay. When I'm done, I'll share them with you. But I can't handle trying to keep up with another thing that I post. So that's why I'm not doing anything with them, but I'll let you read them. And anyone else that loves Degrassi or is obsessed right now. But yeah, God. I needed to get it out of my brain. So I'm like rating each music, all the music, not the music that plays in the episodes, but like the bands, characters. Like yeah, have their songs and bands. And that's what I'm rating right now. But yeah, I feel like I've been taken hostage.
Oh my God.
By my brain right now. And I cannot stop. Like physically, I cannot.
It sounds like it's out of your control. Yeah.
It completely is out of my control. And I miss horror stuff. I do. But I can't stop. I will say though, I did listen to an episode of Otherworld, which is just another type of thing where people call in and tell their stories. And they had an episode with this very famous like war photographer. His name is Sebastian something. I don't remember his last name right now. But it was like not afterlife. What is that thing called? End of life experience? No.
Oh.
After death experience? It has a term. We've done an episode on it and I cannot remember the term. But when someone...
I know what you're saying, yeah.
Yeah. When someone passes away or passes away for like some seconds.
Like and almost death experience. Yeah. But it's not called that. It has a name.
Oh, near death.
Oh, and me, almost death.
Yeah. I mean, that's like a synonym.
Like with our brains together, we can think of something.
We made it there. Whatever it takes.
Time.
No, just kidding. Sorry, that's the Degrassi theme song. Whatever it takes.
Oh my God.
I'm not going to sing it. Anyway, that's a really good episode if anyone wants an actual spooky recommendation and for me to not talk about Degrassi forever. Anyway, yeah, that brings us to the end of the episode. I'm almost done with the Hacienda. Vampires of El Norte. That's the current book club book. I will be, at the time of this episode, I probably already sent them out, but I'm going to be sending out the discussion questions so that you can write your responses in if you want us to read them on the book club episode. And I'll give everyone like 2 weeks and then we'll record the episode. But yeah, I'm almost done and I've been loving it.
I've been done.
Yeah, I know. So
I was
I'm
obsessed. I couldn't put it down.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll send those out. And then also the the link to the book club. So you can get these discussion questions straight to your email if you want. You can sign up. The link is in the show notes. It's the book club like newsletter basically. And all these questions I also post on Patreon for the free members, so everyone can respond to them if they want, and we will read those responses on the episode. So yeah, okay, that's it for news, I think. Oh, sorry, no, one more thing. We will be in Colorado next month for the
already
true crime. Yeah, it's coming up. I gotta rent the car.
You better not forget.
Anyway. No, obviously I'm gonna do it. Anyway, yeah, we're going to be at the True Crime Paranormal Podcast Festival in Denver, Colorado. It's July 12th to July 14th. We have a little table. We have a little booth. We're not doing any like presentations. I did see Aiden from Susto has a presentation he's doing. So
I will be seated.
We will be seated.
I'm so
we
excited.
love Susto. And yeah, anyone that stops by, I'm going to have stickers. I'm going to have a little recording setup if you want to tell us a scary story while you're there. I'm not going to have any fancy merch with us because I'm broke. I can't just go out and drop $1,000 on shirts and stuff, you know?
Yeah.
Stickers though I can make. So I'll have a bunch of stickers with me to hand out. Come say hi, please. If you're in Espooky in Denver or in the area, come say hi to us. And okay, that's it.
All right.
Yes. I don't know. Hug your pets, hug your family members.
Hug your loved ones.
Yeah. And stay spooky. We'll catch everyone next time. Bye.
Bye.